Welcome back to the morning show here on Tobago Updates Television, and thank you so much for staying with us. We continue conversation this morning, and as we get into this conversation, remember you can leave your comments on our Facebook live stream and our YouTube channel at Tobago Updates, because we really want to hear from you. We are having conversations with Allister Guevarro. He is the top cop. You might know that name. Yes, he's the Commissioner of Police of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, and this morning we're going to be having conversations with him on matters concerning managing Trinidad and Tobago as it relates to crime. Specifically, the conversation will center around Tobago. Good morning and welcome.
Pleasant good morning, Ms. Combie. Pleasant good morning, Mr. Holder. Thanks for having me. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago, and a special good morning to Tobago.
That's right. Thank you so much for being here with us this morning. And so we're going to get straight into the conversation. First and foremost, it's our first conversation with you as the Commissioner of Police. So let me say on behalf of Tobago Updates Television, congratulations to you in your appointment. And we're going to get into the...
And I'm sure it will not be the last.
All right. Well, we're hoping so, because one thing about us is we love having conversations with TTPS, because that is where we get informed, direct information rather than the hearsay that we hear about. We get the information that we need to get in order to update our viewers. So we could be in a place where we kind of know what is happening to a certain level. While I know the TTPS cannot divulge all the information, we feel comforted when we have the conversations from the representatives. So having said that, we want to get into a conversation that I think we should have. I mean, we currently are in an S.O.E, as we are aware, and it's the second time within, from December, we went into an S.O.E, and then we went back into an S.O.E in this year, within a short space of time, citing that there are issues of security matters that need to be addressed. And here we are months after, still under an S.O.E. And the question is, have you seen, from your perspective, based on the information that came in and the reason for the S.O.E., have you had any major breakthroughs, or were you able to detect anything or have any measure of control over the information that came in that led to the S.O.E.?
So again, the S.O.E was requested as a result of particular information, or we call it intelligence, that have come to the knowledge of the Commissioner of Police. That knowledge being shared with the National Security Council, a decision was made to act and implement a state of emergency, granting the police particular powers. Before the public were made aware that there was an S.O.E. at 12 midnight that night till around 7 a.m. that morning, particular police exercises would have been implemented to arrest the initial cause of the S.O.E. And persons were removed from particular places of detention and taken elsewhere. As a result, the initial cause for concern was arrested. That was dealt with. We then went into the other phase, which was searching, seeking, and finding the elements that existed. Thus far, I think from the last data, we have executed about 77 or 79 preventative detention orders. We have about 46 or 47 still outstanding to be executed. So there are persons out there we're still looking for. So we are not taking it lightly. We are still actively hunting them.
And you believe that it is still necessary to be in an S.O.E. at this point in time?
Let me ask you a question. You feel like you're in an S.O.E.?
I don't know what the feeling of an S.O.E. is at this point in time, but...
You see soldiers walking around the streets with big guns and intimidating, just look on anything. No, the God-fearing, law-abiding citizens of Trinidad still going about their business normal, Mr. Holder?
Yeah, I mean, I am, yes.
You still partying?
Well, I don't party, but
I'm going to the beach.
Yes, I'm
still going around.
The thing about it is, I understand that, and I know what we know, well, coming up as a young child, knowing about an SOE, especially if you go back to 1990,
and even 1970s.
There we go. And if you think about an SOE, it's a lot different. The feeling is a lot different there. But I'm talking about the impact that you are making. I mean, you said you arrested the main cause, and that you've affected between 77 to 79, and you have about. Do you see the impacts of an SOE as opposed to normal policing at this point in time?
Normal policing
continues. I'm aware, yes.
And hundreds of persons have been arrested and taken before the courts during this SOE as well. So that's just not the 77 or 79 persons on preventative detention orders. They were placed on PDOs for a particular purpose. And for the first time in the history of Trinidad, we have persons who are incarcerated and imprisoned being placed on preventative detention orders. So this is a historic first for Trinidad. You're already in jail, but we're putting you on a preventive detention order to give us a little more control over you. Because let us not bury our heads in the sand. They are still communicating instructions from behind prison walls. And that is a serious situation that we need to arrest. We need to cut out, curtail immediately. When we cut the head of leadership off, then we were able to realize particular gains. And as we went along and we monitored, we evaluated, and we redispensed our resources, we don't have indefinite resources, but the little bit that we have, we are able to redirect them, particularly to treat with these situations as they arise. And we're continuing to do so very effectively.
So, Commissioner Guevarro, one of the concerns I think my co-host was trying to raise, and it's reflected in society, is that you had a particular goal for the SOE, but the society in general wants to see general control of the crime situation in Trinidad and Tobago. So given that you have achieved the majority of your goals in the particular thing that you wanted to tackle, has the police operations expanded beyond that in the SOE to utilize their powers in the SOE to tackle other crime issues in Trinidad and Tobago?
So we have been utilizing the powers under the SOE to tackle other crime that has come to our being. Look at that multi-million-dollar drug fine that we had in Southwestern Division recently. Up to yesterday evening, officers were finding firearms and taking them off the streets. So we have had persons being arrested and taken to court and already being sentenced. Those are the figures that Trinidad and Tobago wouldn't be aware of, because what we would consider part of normal, everyday routine policing activities. What the SOE does, it gave the police particular powers as it regards to placing persons on preventative detention orders. Let us examine the word preventative detention order. The police can now approach the authorities to place, which is the Minister of Homeland Security, to place a particular person based on intelligence. We present reports to you and say, listen, this person is a threat to society because this is the intelligence we have that this person is a part of, or planning to do, or has done something that is inimical to society, and that if they are not removed from part of society and placed on a preventative detention order, this is something that will continue to occur or that will occur. The minister, being so satisfied, will then either grant or refuse the request of the police. And thus far, what we have is we've been able to prevent good intelligence and evidence to the minister, so that we've been able to have that, seamless scenario going on.
Also, you mentioned that you were able to isolate the leaders of these criminal organizations, and it exposed certain things that you wanted to get out. In terms of, we know at some point the preventative or detention orders and the SOE must come to an end. So is the TTPS doing work to really address the root cause of these, of the root operations of these organizations to enable you to dismantle these organizations?
And that is what we are in right now. We are in the dismantling stage. But it is an all of society, all of law enforcement approach that we are trying to use. So we're not just tackling the malevolent behaviors. We are trying to encourage good behaviors in society. And as I was mentioning this morning on another program, that even the school-oriented policing, whereas it was seen as us versus them in terms of the children, viewing the police as Babylon or 5-0, whatever they choose to call us nowadays. We're now seeing police officers playing badminton with them in the school, lecturing to them, fixing their ties. So we see that softer side, that softer approach to policing now being realized. So we are not just attacking them when they get bad. We're trying to attack them before they are influenced to get bad. So in looking at addressing the post-S.O.E, as you call it, there are still laws in place in Trinidad and Tobago. And there are some laws that we would like to get amended and tweaked and introduced to give the police a little more teeth in treating with the crime situation. And that is also being addressed at a different level.
And of course, we welcome it because at the end of the day, and as we always have the conversation with TTP, at the end of the day, we want to be able to walk, confidently in our streets, not thinking, oh, who's walking 2 steps behind me? I find this person walking too close behind me.
This
so
morning,
no, I'm saying this is what we're used to in Trinidad and Tobago, primarily in Tobago. Tobago is very relaxed, very laid back. And I remember a time when you could leave your front door open and go to the neighbor and come back and nothing is missing. And now we're seeing society is changing. And what I'm saying is to get back to there is what we're really hoping to achieve, and we're hoping that the partnership will allow for that to happen. I know it is not like a magic wand. There's systems you have to put in place and mindsets you have to change. And as you mentioned, dismantling and redirecting the way people operate. And as you introduce the policing in schools, you mentioned the soft touch approach. But what is the reception in terms of the schools, the students, the teachers, to the police officers being in the schools with them?
I'd like to use one word: phenomenal. At the beginning of it, we had the Parent Teachers Association, the National Parent Teachers Association, being somewhat resistant. And within 2 days, they got on board. So remember that phrase that we came, get on board with the TTPS? Even the NPTA is now on board with the school-oriented policing. And back to the situation, you said someone following you? Or someone following you?
No, I didn't say someone was following me. We'd like to get to a place where you're not thinking who is walking behind me and you're looking over your shoulder.
It may be somebody trying to get your number.
You have jokes this Friday morning. All right, so we in Tobago, the Tobago space now, we have the Commission of Police in Tobago, and we cannot have you here and not talk about what we're doing for Tobago. What is the actual crime plan for Tobago? I know the TTPS, they continue to have their town meetings, they collaborate with communities, and all of these things are happening. But from the top up, we want to know what is the direction? How do we intend to curb crime and to strengthen partnerships and to ensure that communities across Tobago understand that crime fighting is our thing and we have to work together to get it done. So what is the plan?
I love our thing. You prove to me at Tobago.
That's right.
All right. Well, then you invite the wrong person on the show. The person you should have here was Mr. Eli and Mr. Guevarro, because they're doing, again, a tremendous job. Look at the crime statistics for Tobago over the past year, and you would see the comparative analysis between 2024 and 2025. Last year at this time, Tobago had 25 homicides. This year it's 6. And of the 6, 4 of them have been solved already. That's 300% decrease in homicide in Tobago. As I always say something, clap for that. That is what Mr. Guevarro and Mr. Eli are doing in your Tobago space. They are engaging the members of the business community, members of the NGOs, the schools, the education, everything. It's all of Tobago approach. And I want all of Tobago to get on board with the TTPS in realizing that dream you have of persons walking down the street and not being watching me, God, who following me, boy? And it's not to give me a number, it's for to take your handbag or to grab your phone. I also want to urge Tobago, because in examining the crime statistics for the island, we recognize that there are particular offenses that are continuously occurring because of the are we what?
Are we thing?
The situation is you cannot continue to make yourself soft targets and leave your front doors open. That's back in the 1960s, 70s, and 80s. there are now persons who would be looking and knowing that mentality and seek to victimize you. Go in and take your flat screen TV. Go in and take your jewelry. And in some cases, take other things. Help us to help you. Lock your doors. Have people leaving their cars open in Tobago here still, and people taking them and joyriding with them and finding them on the other half of the island. Lock your car. Put in an alarm system. It's not much of an inconvenience to you, but at the same time, it helps to reduce the fact that you would now become victims. Right? So make yourself harder targets.
How unfortunate is that? How unfortunate that you have to take those steps. And I understand the need for it because that is where we are right now and that's what we're dealing with. But how unfortunate. And, in terms of, I think you mentioned earlier, having to change the mindset, having to change, because society has become so selfish that all they think about is immediate gains. And changing our mindset, it takes a lot. It can't happen overnight. So in terms of how is the TTPS positioning itself with others, state agencies, communities, the business community, to ensure that we come back to a place where, you used to hear that saying it takes a village to raise a child, and all of these things, where we realize that we have to be in this together. What is the approach?
We welcome everyone to get on board with the TTPS. Any NGOs, all the educational sporting organizations, even the media. I always say, you all are the people, you are the voice, the vanguards to democracy. So, we need to get that everyone on board spirit to get the society back to what it was. I grew up in Moruga, 14.5-mile mark Penal Rock Road. So I used to have to walk 2.5 kilometers to get to the junction to get a taxi to go to school and then walk back. So I used to do a 5K every day. My mother never locked her door during my entire time growing up. But she says she have children and anybody could walk in at any given time. I ain't doing that today. When I come back, I'll meet a dance hall. That is not what we want. But at the same time, we must now realize that the society has now changed. We are being influenced by social media, by music that we're listening to. They stop reading. They're just looking at TV now and looking at movies, and everybody wants to be the next John Wick. So, smile at that. At the end of the day, we must now realize that there has been a significant change, a realignment of the thought processes of the younger generation. We went from Generation X to Generation Y to Gen Zs, millennials. I think they have another one that they just brought out.
I think it's Alpha.
Alpha. And everyone has a different mentality. They are not baby boomers again. And the silent generation, they grew up in a different time. And there is a saying, hard times make strong men. Strong men make easy times. Easy times make weak men. So when you look at the cycle, we grew up with parents who were strong. So we have a strong society. But at this point in time, we are allowing television and internet to raise our children. So that's a conversation to have. Pay attention to what your children put in their bags to go to school. So the school-oriented policing, we find in narcotics, we find in knives. These are the things that we don't want in our schools. So parents, I urge you, check your children's school bags.
As you, Commissioner, as you mentioned the children carrying knives and weapons to schools, I just want to go back to the school policing. In the short time that you've been doing the school policing, has the TTPS observed or are they attempting to tackle the issues of gangs operating in schools? Because we know there's been this appearance of gangs starting to infiltrate schools and encouraging young boys to join the gangs and then carry the operations into the schools. How is the TTPS going about tackling that using the school policing?
Thus far, I have had no information come to my knowledge that that situation exists in those schools that we are currently policing at. However, I recognize from my own observations on social media that the children now realizing they can't fight in the school anymore, they're taking it out in the streets. They're fist fighting, and it seems to be a lot of the girls meeting each other in stores and on the streets on the way home, and have begun to now fight outside of the schools. So that is something we will now look at, and we will now adjust the patrol regime so that we will now have a situation where we might have to start sending children home, 2:30 school over, by 3 o'clock, get off the streets, get a taxi, go home. Why are you lingering around? Those are the things that will cause confrontations between children from the same school or even from other schools. We know it existed in our days, but now it is being highlighted because social media.
Commissioner, I like the idea. It sounds so good. Get home, school over, get in a taxi and get home. But by the time they get home, if about 6 of them could live in the same area, the same community, and they get ganging up against this one because I didn't get you in school because police was there, and this one was there, security officers were there, the school counselor was there. So I couldn't do it there, I couldn't do it on the road, but we reach home now and we're in the village, and we can handle it. What happens then?
That is where the parents had to come and take control of their children and their space. I remember the days a village raised a child. My very first school, Santa Maria RC School, I lived about 7 to 10 minute walk depending on how fast you walk. If by 3:15 my mother ain't see me reach home yet, trust me, belt will pass,
And I that's the time I grew up in as well. And in terms of how now is the TTPS ensuring that because we're talking about policing in schools, we're talking about community projects. How is the TTPS ensuring that the parents understand their responsibility? Because we've seen in schools, and I suppose this is why the police is in school now, where children were really, really misbehaving, violent behavior, sometimes criminal behavior, children getting serious injuries and having to be hospitalized. How is the TTPS ensuring that the parents realize, hey, this is your responsibility? And is there going to be a situation where a parent can be charged for the behavior of their child?
There are particular laws already in existence. However, what we would like to urge the members of the public, the parents, the right-thinking ones out there, partner with the police service. We have the community-oriented policing, who is the overall in charge of the school-oriented policing. We have stems where we can come into schools, and we have been going into schools and lecturing. If it's a situation where you as a parent decide that your child is uncontrollable, you can come to the police and we have methods and means of dealing with that. Don't let them fall the way of getting advice and being recruited into gangs and along bad company. I grew up in a place famous for marijuana. I never smoked marijuana in my life. I passed through hundreds of marijuana fields because I'm a hunter. But you understand the rule of thumb. Just pass and leave and go. And this was at 14, 15, 16 years old. So the influence was there. But the mind is what, makes the person become influenced. So we need the parents, take charge of their children, or we will take charge of them.
All right. And in closing, I wish we had more time to continue conversation. Every time we have TTPS, we want more time. But in closing, I want you to encourage our viewers this morning, especially citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, because we have viewers worldwide. But citizens of Trinidad and Tobago and even the diaspora, encourage our citizens to remember that we have a responsibility for our own personal space, and we also have a responsibility to remain as upstanding citizens, law-abiding citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. And should we know about somebody who isn't, the importance of partnering with the TTPS to ensure we curb crime and have a space that is free of crime in Trinidad and Tobago.
Ma'am, you just said it all. You just endorsed everything that TTPS wants. We want community partnership. We want that ability to communicate with the public. Let them call us. We have 999-555. We have Crime Stoppers. Call the police. Have that interaction. We have those divisional commanders who are going out and keeping town meetings. Interact with them. Let them know what are the ills in your society. There are particular things that we can engage other departments to do. You recognize that, hey, the basketball court needs a little painting, upgrading. We can speak to the regional corporation. There's a street light out, men selling drugs underneath it. We can go and talk to T&Tech. There are particular treatments that we can go. I can talk about the nice fancy words of SEPTED and all these other things. But at the end of the day, it all boils down to us wanting a better society, wanting better for ourselves and our families and our children. We want to leave a legacy. We don't want to end up like other parts of the world where you can't even walk the streets, and that persons will not be walking behind you for particular reasons. They'll be wanting to do you harm. So Trinidad, and especially Tobago, I know they love to leave all the door open, all the car open, but this is not the time for that. Lock it up. Help us to keep you safe and your property safe.
Thank you so much, Commissioner, for coming this morning and having that conversation with us.
Thank
Ladies and gentlemen, we've been speaking with Allister Guevarro. He is the Commissioner of Police of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service this morning. We're talking about how we could curb crime, how we can partner with the TTPS, and what the TTPS is doing in the Trinidad and Tobago local space to ensure that you and I remain safe. Remember, we too have a responsibility, and we can partner with the TTPS to make this happen. We have to go for a short break, and up next is Marcus Daniel. Mr. Cricket is in studio this morning, and he'll be having sports talks with you, so do stay tuned with us as we go for this break. We invite you to help us. Share the live, share the live, share the live. We'll be right back.